Hi, everybody. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today I'm talking about the movie Thanksgiving. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you have not seen the movie yet and you are concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. So, Thanksgiving is a movie based on the short fake trailer that they made for the Grindhouse movies back in like 2008, something like that, I think. But yeah, basically, it's in the movie itself. What happens is there's a Black Friday event on Thanksgiving, and a bunch of people are accidentally killed. And the next year, a person dressed up as the town founder, John Carver, I think was his name, starts killing people who were involved in that situation. So, as far as what I liked about the movie, overall, the cast was pretty good. I was actually very good. I really like Patrick Dempsey. He was in here as the sheriff. Haven't seen him in much lately, but apparently he's the sexiest man alive now. So good for him. That kind of came out of nowhere, but I guess he's got a Ferrari movie coming out soon too. So okay, cool. I like Nell Verlaque as Jessica, the sort of main girl, the final girl. She was fine. She was good. Addison Rae, she's as Gabby. I guess she's a TikToker, and she was in the She's All That or He's All That TV show. Jalen Thomas Brooks is Bobby. I liked him a lot. I liked the kid who played Ryan, Milo Manheim. Pretty much all the kids were pretty good here. I like seeing Rick Hoffman from Suits in here as Thomas Wright. Gina Gershon, always good to see her and stuff. She's not in it much, but she was good. I like the kid who played Evan, Tommaso Sinelli. He was kind of a jerk, but he was a believable jerk. Like I like to hate him. And the kid who played Scuba. At first, I was like, I don't know about this guy, but as he came around, Gabriel Davenport was his name. Yeah, I liked his character. I like Yulia as well. So all the kids pretty much. Jenna Warren, and I actually liked McCarty. Joe Delphin was the actor's name. The older guy who like bought the kids drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, which is a creepy character who I should not like, but I liked his performance, so it worked for me. Uh, Other than that, the score, I like the score. It was done by Brandon Roberts. He's done Hellraiser Bloodlines, Fear Street Part 2, 1978, and Turn. And he's also worked on some other stuff like A Quiet Place and some other films like that. So yeah, pretty good score. I thought it worked for me. It built up the tension. It was scary. It set the mood. I really like the music in here. There's a lot of cool stuff like I Know What Boys Like by the Waitresses. You got Chills by Gary and the Pacemakers. The Far Side, the Misfits, a lot of like old school kind of classic Halloween or scary kind of songs and stuff like that. I like the haunted house song, stuff like that. Pretty cool. I enjoyed it. The cinematography I thought was really good too. Very scary, and it worked for the horror movie. It was by Milan Chidima, who did Hostel and Hostel 2, also by Eli Roth. I like really, I mean, I think the best part of this movie was the inventive kills. You see some of them in the trailer, like the freezer. And there's also a part where there's sort of a dumpster and that woman gets like ripped in half. I thought that was pretty cool. There's the trampoline scene, which is actually in the original short, but they changed it a little bit for this. There's actually less nudity in this, which is interesting. But yeah, I think that was probably my favorite kill was the trampoline, which I'd seen before, but at least, they put a little bit of a new twist on there. And overall, yeah, some great kills and some really good, really cool practical effects, which I always love to see. I hate when I'm watching a horror movie and they've got CGI, like VFX, and it always kind of takes me out of the movie. But whenever it's practical effects, even if they're not 100% great, even if I can kind of tell that it's not real, I appreciate the effort that they put forth to try to make it and to make it look better. To me, it's just a more visceral reaction, and it works better for horror movies. And then, like I said before, the Misfits. I love the Misfits, but I didn't expect it. The movie ends with "Where Eagles Dare," and I automatically that's awesome. I love that song. I love the Misfits. So any movie that plays the Misfits automatically gets an extra point in my book, as far as I'm concerned. First, what I disliked about the movie, I like Patrick Dempsey. I think he did a good job in this. I actually think his performance is great, but his accent is kind of all over the place. Like at first, I'm like, oh, so he's not doing an accent. And then I'm like, oh no, wait, no, he is doing like a Massachusetts accent. The movie takes place in Massachusetts, and Eli Roth is from Massachusetts, the director. But yeah, and then like there's parts where he definitely is doing it, and I'm like, so what's going on here? And maybe that's kind of the way accents really are. And when I first started, I'm like, watch, I'm gonna look it up, and he's from Massachusetts. He's not. He's from Maine, which is not a dissimilar accent, but I think definitely a different accent. And so maybe that's a little bit of it. But yeah, there's definitely times when he's like yelling and he's definitely putting on like the Massachusetts accent pretty thick, and other times where he's not. And I guess maybe with real accents, that is kind of the way it is. Like in real life, a lot of times they do kind of come and go. But yeah, I also, like I said, I didn't dislike Nell Verlaque as Jessica, but I feel like there were a couple times, like particularly when she's like yelling at the two guys who are fighting over her, where her performance could have been a little better. Whereas I feel like most of the other people were pretty good. I mean, movie quality, she was to me a little bit more like made for TV movie quality at some points. And apparently she was on the show Big Shot, which was like a Disney Channel show or a Disney Plus show with John Stamos. I never watched it, but yeah, I don't know. As I'm watching, I just assumed she was like the director's daughter or something. Not that she was terrible. She was okay, but just to me, she didn't have the gravitas or the whatever that like a Neve Campbell or Jennifer Love Hewitt, for example, had. I didn't really like the thing with the ring. So there's a thing where the creepy guy, what's his name again? McCarty, he tries to give her like a kind of a little knife thing, and she turns him down. And then later he's like, "Oh, you got to take this ring. It was my uncle's ring or my grandpa's ring or something." And he said it brought him luck. And it was like a ring that had like a sharp kind of knife stabby thingy on it, and it comes in handy later. She uses it to cut herself free, and she gives it to Scuba, and he cuts himself free. But he just kind of seemed like it just came out of nowhere. And if anything, you wanted to do that, she should have just taken that first little knife thing that he gave her or wanted to give her at the beginning. I don't know why they had to add that in there. And I don't know why this McCarty guy cared so much about her, unless there was something that I missed. But, he was kind of just a creepy dude who like gets kids drunk. So I'm like, why is he now all of a sudden? I don't know. Again, I like the actor, I like his performance, so maybe that was part of it. I'm sure Eli Roth probably wrote that role and wanted to play it, but I was like, no, I'm too old for that. Damn it. I didn't really like that the killer changes costumes at some point. Like during the parade, he's like wearing a clown costume, which I mean is smart on the killer's part because people aren't looking for that. But like it's a little bit like, well, no, I mean you've established this character, and like now, I don't know. There's also a part where he like burns the mask, and I'm like, well, that's stupid. Why would you burn the mask? Like the idea with the mask is everyone else is wearing it, so you can kind of blend in. But then he just gets a new mask, so I'm like, all right, so what was the whole thing with burning of the mask? I don't really know. And I don't know how much I really like the killer talking. Like I think he kind of talks throughout, or he does like TikToks or some kind of social media post. But then there's a part where they're all around the table and he's like kind of explaining, his whole thing or whatever. And it's a different actor, it's a different voice, and he's using a voice modulator in the movie to cover up whose voice it is. But for me, I'm just like, I don't know. I guess I preferred when the character didn't speak and was just kind of this silent, imposing presence. And once he starts speaking, you're like, all right, it's taking me away a little bit, I guess. And then again, total spoilers here. The killer ends up being Patrick Dempsey's character, the sheriff. And for me, I think I saw someone say like, "Oh, it's very obvious who the killer was." And honestly, when I first saw the trailer, I'm like, "Oh, hey, that's Patrick Dempsey. I know that guy. He's probably the killer because he's the only person that I recognize in this trailer other than the guy from Suits." Also, I'm old though, so I don't recognize Addison Rae or whatever her name is. But yeah, so that was to me pretty obvious. But as you watch the movie, you're like, okay, it seems like it could be this Bobby kid. He's very upset because he lost his scholarship and whatnot. It definitely seems like it could be the new boyfriend Ryan because he definitely seems a little sketchy and shady. So like I understand that. And I think unless I missed something, I only watched the movie once. They don't seem to give you too many hints within the story that it is Patrick Dempsey. Now, granted, again, I suspect it just because it's Patrick Dempsey. But yeah, I mean, I guess him and Gina Gershon have a little moment in the beginning there where maybe they look at each other a little too long or a little too happy to see each other. But honestly, I kind of missed what their dynamic was, mostly because the dude in front of me had his phone on for some reason. I don't know, it was awkward. But yeah, so I don't know, but I thought that was actually pretty solid. I was kind of wrapped up in it. Again, I suspected Patrick Dempsey the whole time, but there was enough of a misdirect for me to, not be completely convinced it was him the whole time. So yeah, other than that, the movie is directed by Eli Roth. He did Cabin Fever, Hostel 2, I think, Knock Knock, the Green Inferno, some other stuff. He hasn't done much in a while. Then he also played the Bear Jew in Inglourious Basterds. Screenplay was by Jeff Rendell, who wrote the Grindhouse Thanksgiving short that this is based off of. And stories by Eli Roth and Jeff Rendell. Jeff Rendell also played Fake Shemp in Cabin Fever, and according to IMDb, at least, he played the Pilgrim, who was John Carver, the killer, in the Thanksgiving short, the original short they made for the Grindhouse thing. So yeah, that's interesting. Good for him. Apparently, he and Eli Roth came up with this idea when they were like 18, which sounds about right. So budget on this 15 million, pretty low for what it is. Box office, it's made about 13.9 million so far. 10.3 of that was domestic, so not much overseas. I don't expect this movie to make much overseas, but I'm sure it's going to make its budget back. And that's the beauty of doing a movie with a relatively low budget. It's pretty easy to make 15 million back. You only have to make 30 million. Rotten Tomatoes in this one pretty good. The critics are at 82%. The audience at 79%. So pretty close for once there. Critics like it a little bit better, but Okay. And like I said, this is based on a series of Grindhouse short fake trailers they made to go in between the two movies. So this one now and Machete 1 and 2, I think, and Hobo with a Shotgun were all made into movies, which is pretty cool. I was waiting to see Don't, and I was also excited for Werewolf Women of the SS until I realized that's a Rob Zombie thing. So never mind. But Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu, that sounds great. I mean, come on. I did also like the ending, kind of left it open for more, where they're like, we didn't find the body, which you expected. And then they kind of showed this one fireman who's like, he's like number 42, which is like, Doug Adams' prominent number. And then like his face is covered. And I'm like, well, so that's the guy. Grab that guy. Pull the mask. I expected them to grab me, pull the mask off, and just be a regular fireman, but they didn't even do that. So I'm like, okay, well, so that was probably the guy right there then. But yeah, so I guess they're leaving it open for sequels. So good for them. I can see that happening. It sounds like people are liking it. So yeah, I really like the movie. I think, a lot of people have said that it delivered exactly what it promises. It's one of those where like it understood the assignment. And so, yeah, if what you're looking for is kind of a goofy, schlocky, over the top, gory kind of movie, it's about Thanksgiving. It's, pretty tongue in cheek and doesn't take itself too seriously. I think it does a great job at what it delivers. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Honestly, it's probably closer to a 7 out of 10, but gets that extra point from the Misfits. So there you go. But if you saw the movie, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you next week.